Residents along our coast are preparing for yet another higher than normal tide, with waters expected to flood roads and impact homes in low-lying areas. WNBF News reporter Caitlin Stansel is in Cherry Grove with more right now. Caitlin.
Lisa, in just a couple of hours, waters from this inlet in Cherry Grove are expected to surpass this wall here, flooding many of the roads in this area. And I just want to give you a perspective on how far-reaching these waters will be. I'm standing in the inlet right now, and I'm about 5'5", so this wall still has about 3 feet to go before the waters surpass it. And if we can pan this way, what you're going to see is that from the tide this morning, water sits in this driveway here across the street. And what I'm told from residents here is that much of this area was covered with water at that time, and they're expecting that again at the peak of this tide tonight. Now, we talked to residents here who say that after the flooding they saw last night and Saturday night, they're preparing for it to happen again. Many of them have moved their vehicles to a parking garage more inland to make sure that they are not damaged from this water. And coming up tonight at 11, you'll hear from those residents on how they've been affected by this tide Friday and Saturday night as well as Sunday night, but also again how they are preparing and what they are expecting to see tonight. Back to you, Lisa.
We have new video tonight of what high tide looked like in Garden City. Now, the ocean started to creep into the streets there around 8:40. You're taking a look at that. By 9:30, it was almost knee deep along Atlantic Avenue near the Garden City Pier. Businesses were expecting it. They were prepared with sandbags. You see there's several roads needed to be blocked off because of that flooding. It was the same situation in the North Strand, where people in Cherry Grove prepared all day for the high tide that peaked just a few hours ago. That's where we find WNBF News reporter Caitlin Stansel tonight. She's hearing from those who live there. They're showing us the impact as this higher than normal tide has had on homes and on the shoreline itself.
Julie, come light, the cleanup process will begin here in Cherry Grove and along many of our coastal areas. This higher than normal tide, coupled with that supermoon this weekend, has flooded roads here, and as the water went back out, it left a lot of debris here. Now, residents say that they have been preparing to not only tie down the things that they think might float away, but also preparing to clean up when morning light comes. Mitch Grant's shoes squeak across his carport as he prepares his home for more tidal flooding.
Got the lawnmower up on 4x4s and a couple of more boards. I've got my shop vac up on my grass seed spreader. I've got all my tools up off the floor. The gas cans are up off the floor. So everything's a mess, but it's going to stay dry.
As dry as he can keep it, trying to beat the clock to the next high tide.
It comes over pretty fast. We're in a flood zone, so it's hardly a surprise to us. And there was plenty of warning for us to be prepared. And it's more of a nuisance than a catastrophe. Things get wet, but things will dry out.
Just a few hours later, water begins to creep up 34th Avenue and across Duffy Street in Cherry Grove. The high tide bringing water through Grant's home and filling the streets. Some brave their way through, taking it slow, and others hope their preparation will pay off in the morning.
All that stuff has floated before, so we've got that tied off and jammed in there. The trash cans especially.
Residents say the damage has been minimal, but you can see the debris left behind and even some erosion.
When the tropical storm Anna came, all the dirt underneath our house washed away. So you can see the line over there. We had to replace all that concrete, right? So when this king tide came, it happened again.
Beachside, though, the erosion is much more apparent. Chunks of sand taken from the dunes near the Cherry Grove Pier, and waves pushing their way further and further beneath it as the tide moved its way on shore. But most residents in this area are staying optimistic and just waiting to see what's left behind come morning.
I think it'll be all right. I don't think the house is going to wash away or anything, you know.
We have a truck, and I told the neighbors, you know, that when this dries off, we'll take everything to the dump and get rid of the trash.
The water has receded from the peak of high tide, which was just before 9 o'clock tonight, and much of this area that you see right now that is grass and dry, that was covered just a couple hours ago. Now, what experts are saying is that Sunday should have been the worst night for this tide when the supermoon was at its highest, drawing these waters in. But later on this week, it should continually go down and be back to normal. In Cherry Grove, Caitlin Stansel, WNBF News.